Hello, and welcome to Tuneful Talk. This is Luisa
and Candace. This podcast is devoted to discussing topics relevant to both music educators
and music therapists. For more resources and podcasts, please visit our website, tunefultalk.weebly.com.
Hope you enjoy.
All right, so we are so excited to start this podcast. Thanks for checking it out and coming all the way to the beginning.
Yes, this is episode 0. We're going to start by sharing how this podcast got started and what our goals are.
So how did we get started? Of course, our name. I mean, there's some more before that, but most importantly, our name.
Tuneful Talk. It was a journey to get to that name, wasn't it?
Yes, because every musical name was taken by random Facebook pages from people who love music, because let's face it, music is awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
At first we had the idea, since we're talking about education and therapy, we had this idea of meshing the words, and we were like, music edutherapy. And we were like, that sounds so strange.
Yeah, looking back, it's a really weird word. I don't know what we were thinking.
So we hope you enjoy the alliteration of Tuneful Talk.
Yes. But continuing on.
Yeah, Louise and I, we first met each other. We were both educators in the same district. We both taught elementary general music. And I was at this district for 5 years. And Louisa, you were there for?
I was there for 3 years. And I came in Candace's 4th year.
Yeah.
So I was at the tail end of hers.
So I got to see her as a first-year teacher. It was so great. But now we're in a very different place in our lives. We're both in grad school at different universities. And it's kind of led us on the journey that came about into Tuneful Talk, into this podcast. So,
yeah.
Do you mind if I start the story of how we got
go
there?
for it.
Awesome. Okay. I'm a grad student at UNT right now, and my goal is to be a music educator. But the root of my interest in music therapy goes all the way back to my time teaching in the classroom and just seeing the social and emotional needs of my students and seeking out ways I could use my teaching to help them be successful in the classroom. And so fast forward and starting grad school and starting my doctoral degree, I was in a course at UNT. It was a music teacher educator seminar class, and we were asked to research any current topic, any issue relating to music education, which can be so many different things.
That's very broad.
Yeah, very broad. And so
I don't know how you chose something.
Well, it was a journey just in itself. So I started reading everything, and it led me down to researching the association between teacher and student mental health.
Which is genius. I feel like that's something teachers need so much.
Yeah, and there's a lot of studies in general education, but it's only just now starting to be studied in the field of music education.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really neat reading some of that, and I did a class presentation and paper, and fast forward again, I submitted my research to the 2019 SMTE Symposium. That's the Society for Music Teacher Education. And it was accepted, so I was invited to present at this research conference. And it was my first time to present, and it was also a national conference. So needless to say, I was quite nervous.
I would be too.
Yeah. During this conference, there's so much going on. There's so many presentations to see. There's poster presentations. There's people to talk to who either they have the same research interests as you, or you've read their research, and you're like kind of nerding out going, oh my gosh, I read your article.
You're famous to me.
Yeah, and so at one point, or a couple times during the conference, you split into these groups called ASPAs, which are Areas for Strategic Planning and Action. And there's currently 12, and the newest one to be added, this was the first symposium that one was added, was the ASPA for Music Teacher Health and Wellness. And so with my research interests, of course, that's the one that I went to. And it was really great discussion about what the goals of this ASPA was going to be. And during this discussion, one thing that was noted was the need for interdisciplinary research, partnership, and dialogue with music therapists. And I was just sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is great, because my roommate is a future music therapist named Luisa right here to the side of me.
How convenient.
So for me, that's when Tuneful Talk really started. It was just us talking as we were studying and taking breaks from reading when we were in the living room, and we just kind of needed an extra push to make it official and to turn it into a podcast. And that really happened when we started taking a grad class together this past semester.
Because we can do that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, so that's my story. And I know we have a little bit of overlap, but where did this all start for you, Luisa?
Yes, my ending definitely overlaps with yours, but I know my start is just a little bit different. So going back to where we are now real quick, I am, of course, a graduate student at TWU, trying to earn my master's for music therapy. So, like most people, when I first heard the term music therapy, I had absolutely no idea what it was. And I honestly didn't give much thought to the idea of becoming a music therapist. Why would I when I had my sights set on becoming an elementary music teacher? But while I was student teaching, a paraprofessional came up to me randomly one day and said, have you ever thought about music therapy? I think you would be great.
It's so neat how those interactions can plant a little seed,
Just
a little idea.
Seed, yes, and there were some other things that happened previously, but that's really what stuck in my head while I was teaching and what led me to this. But, of course, when I heard it, naturally, I thought, no, thank you. One, I'm finally almost done. And two, I'm not going back to school. Like, that's not even no. So, little did I know what the future had in store for me. Fast forward a few years, and I had the same realization as you. While I was teaching, I just felt like my students had social, emotional needs that weren't being met. And I wanted to support my students, but as an educator, I didn't know how to guide them, and it honestly tore me up inside. So when I started my classes, I first noticed, of course, the differences between music therapy and music education, but the similarities is what really stood out to me. And just like Candace was saying earlier, many times when I was reading, I would think, wow, I wish I had known this before, or even while I was teaching. And I mean, she definitely knows because I always go to her and be like, look at this, or wow, what about this? And did you ever think about this? And yes.
So if you haven't noticed already, we're pretty much big nerds and discuss our readings and things randomly throughout the day. But we hope that you as our listeners can capitalize on our nerdiness and learn new things as we're learning them as well.
Mm-hmm. So the goal of Tuneful Talk is to draw connections between music education and music therapy. We will share current topics relevant to both professions, and ultimately our hope is this will inspire future dialogue between music educators and therapists to inform and strengthen each other.
Yes, and so thank you so much for starting at the beginning, and we hope you continue listening because our next episode we will be comparing music education and music therapy, and we'll share some specifics about how they can assist and inform each other.
Mm-hmm. So we're excited to go on this journey and hope that you learn as much as we have from our dialogue with each other.
We'd like to invite you to join in the Tuneful Talk as well. Resources gathered for this podcast can be found on our website.
If you have any questions about what we discussed or topic requests for a future podcast, please send us a message through our website,
tunefultalk.weebly.com.